She didn't cry when they told her to leave. Not at first. She stood in the middle of the living room she had tried to make feel like home, gripping a small suitcase that held everything they had decided she was allowed to keep. Her mother's arms were crossed, her expression distant. Her father wouldn't look at her at all. And her brother, once the only person who ever defended her, kept his eyes on his phone, as if this moment was inconvenient. "This isn't working anymore," her mother said, voice calm, practiced. "You need to go." No explanation followed, no argument, just a quiet dismissal, sharp enough to cut without raising its voice. She nodded once. Begging never changed anything. She had learned that young. The door closed behind her with a final, hollow sound. Night air hit her skin, cold and sudden. She stood on the porch for a second too long, as if waiting for someone to call her back. No one did. The house lights stayed on, warm and indifferent, while she stepped down onto the sidewalk alone. She walked without direction, suitcase rattling behind her. Every step felt unreal, like she was watching herself from far away. Cars passed. People laughed somewhere nearby. The world didn't pause for abandonment. That was when the truth settled in. Not fear, not sadness, but something heavier. If she disappeared tonight, no one would notice. No one would ask where she went. She stopped, under a flickering streetlight, chest tightening as the thought wrapped around her throat. Across the street, a black car idled. It didn't belong there. Too clean, too quiet. She noticed it only because everything else seemed to fade. She looked away, telling herself she was imagining things. Inside the car, a man watched her. He had seen the argument through the open window. The way her family turned inward, protecting themselves. The way she stood still, absorbing the blow without protest. Men like him recognized moments like that. Breaking points, turning points. He was not known for mercy. His name moved through the city in whispers. Powerful, dangerous, untouchable. He didn't involve himself in other people's problems. But when he watched her stand alone under that failing streetlight, something unfamiliar stirred. Not pity, possession hadn't formed yet, just certainty. He opened the car door. The sound made her flinch. She turned sharply, heart pounding. He was tall, broad, dressed in dark clothes that seemed to command the space around him. He didn't rush her, didn't smile. He simply stood there calm and controlled. "I'm not asking for money," she said quickly, pride snapping into place. "And I'm not getting in anyone's car." His voice was low, steady, unmistakably American. "You're not safe here tonight." She let out a short, bitter laugh. "I haven't been safe for a long time." His gaze sharpened, not with threat, not with desire, but with decision. "You can stay," he said. "Or you can leave with me. But if you stay, someone else will notice you. And they won't give you a choice." Her instincts screamed danger, yet something about his certainty quieted the noise in her head. "Why?" she asked. "Why help me?" He didn't hesitate. "Because you were thrown away," he said. "And I don't discard what has value." The words should have terrified her. Instead, they steadied her. She looked back at the dark house she had just been erased from, then at the open car door. She stepped inside, as the door closed, sealing her into warmth and silence. She didn't know his name. She didn't know his power. She didn't know that this single decision, made in exhaustion and quiet, desperation, had just rewritten her life. She only knew one thing. She was no longer alone, and by morning, nothing about her world would be the same. The car moved smoothly through the city, light sliding across the dark windows like passing, thoughts she didn't have the strength to hold on to. She sat stiffly at first, hands folded in her lap, back straight as if posture alone could protect her. The leather seat was warm, too comfortable for someone who had just been discarded. He didn't speak right away. That silence told her more than words could. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't careless. It was deliberate, like everything about him. Whoever he was, he didn't fill space unnecessarily. "Where are we going?" she asked finally, her voice steady even though her pulse wasn't. Somewhere safe, he replied. She waited for more. An address? A name? An explanation. None came. The city changed as they drove. The streets grew cleaner, quieter, buildings taller, newer. Guards appeared at gates she hadn't noticed before, stepping aside the moment his car approached. She watched it all with widening awareness. This wasn't luck. This wasn't coincidence. You didn't answer my question, she said. He glanced at her then, just once. I answered the only part that matters. The car passed through iron gates and rolled to a stop in front of a large, understated estate. Not flashy, not welcoming, secure, solid, like it was built to withstand storms no one talked about. When he stepped out, men appeared, not rushed, not armed in obvious ways, but alert, respectful. They nodded to him without a word. No one looked at her directly, but she felt their attention, assessing, cataloging. He opened her door himself. That small gesture disarmed her more than force ever could. Inside, the house was quiet. Warm light, clean lines, no family photos, no softness meant for display. It felt lived in, but controlled, like emotions were allowed only in private. You'll have a room, he said as they walked. Food, clothes if you need them. No one will come in without your permission. She stopped. And the cost? He turned slowly. There isn't one. She shook her head. There's always a cost. His voice lowered. Not tonight. That answer unsettled her more than any demand. The room he gave her was simple, elegant. A bed that looked untouched. Curtains drawn. A bathroom stocked with things she didn't remember asking for. He stood in the doorway, not crossing the threshold. You're safe here, he said. She searched his face. For how long? As long as you stay. And if I leave? A pause. Brief. Honest. Then I won't stop you. She didn't believe him completely, but she believed him enough to breathe again. After he left, she sat on the edge of the bed, exhaustion crashing over her all at once. Her phone buzzed. Messages from her family. Short, careful, already rewriting the story. She turned it off and placed it face down. Later, unable to sleep, she opened the door quietly. The hallway lights were dim. At the end of the corridor, she saw him, sitting in a chair outside. Her room, jacket draped over his arm, eyes open, watching, guarding. You don't have to do that, she whispered. He looked up. I know. Then why are you? Because no one else did. Something broke open in her chest. She didn't thank him. Gratitude felt too small. She went back inside and closed the door, but this time she slept. And somewhere in the house, a man who never allowed himself attachment acknowledged a dangerous truth. Bringing her here hadn't been an impulse. It had been a decision, one he had no intention of undoing. Morning arrived quietly, filtered through heavy curtains that softened the light before it touched her skin. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then the silence reminded her, too complete, too controlled to belong to anywhere she had lived before. She sat up slowly, listening. No shouting, no slammed doors, no tension hanging in the air waiting to snap. Safety felt unfamiliar. When she stepped out of the room, a woman she hadn't seen before was already waiting down the hall. Calm, professional, not curious. Good morning, the woman said. Breakfast is ready whenever you are. Where is he? She asked, surprising herself with how naturally the question came. He's been awake for hours. That didn't surprise her at all. The dining area overlooked a private courtyard, green, still, enclosed by high walls that made escape difficult and intrusion impossible. He stood near the window, sleeves rolled up, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, controlled, dangerous in its restraint. No, he said, that ends today. He ended the call without ceremony and turned to her. You slept, he observed. Yes. A nod. Approval without praise. Good. She sat, aware of the way he didn't crowd her, didn't hover. He kept distance like it was intentional, like crossing it would mean something neither of them had named yet. I need to know something, she said after a moment. What exactly is this place? Mine. That's not an answer. It's the only one you need right now. She exhaled slowly. And what am I to you? That got his attention. He studied her in silence, as if weighing the consequences of honesty. You're under my protection. Protection usually comes with control. Yes, he said evenly. It does. Her jaw tightened. I won't be owned. He stood then, moving closer, but stopping well short of her space. His presence pressed in. Anyway. I don't own people, he said. I don't cage them. But I do set boundaries. And if I cross them, his voice dropped. Then I remind you why they exist. Her pulse jumped. Fear flickered, but didn't take hold. There was something solid in his tone. Predictable. She'd lived with chaos. This felt different. What are the rules? She asked. Don't leave without telling me. Don't trust anyone in this house except me. And don't lie. She laughed softly. That's it? For now. And if I want to leave? You won't, he said. She met his gaze. You don't know that. I know people, he replied. And I know what abandonment does. It doesn't make you run. It makes you cling to the first place that doesn't push you away. The accuracy stung. She stood, pushing her chair back. You don't get to decide who I am. No, he agreed. But I do decide what happens under my roof. There it was, the line. Later that day, she wandered the courtyard alone, testing the edges of her new world. Cameras were hidden well. Guards positioned where she could feel them without seeing them. Nothing was accidental. She found him again that evening in his study. Papers spread across the desk, names she didn't recognize. One photo caught her eye. Herself, standing outside her family's house the night before. You were watching me before I knew you, she said. Yes. How long? Long enough. Anger sparked. That's not protection, that's surveillance. He didn't deny it. You were vulnerable. So you decided I belonged here? I decided you wouldn't be hurt. Silence stretched between them. Finally he spoke. I won't force you to stay. But understand this. Once you leave my protection. Completely. The weight of that settled in. She realized then that this wasn't a rescue. It was an offer. And whatever choice she made next would define everything that followed. The first sign that her past hadn't let her go came quietly. A knock at the gate. Not loud, not aggressive. Careful, like someone trying not to draw attention. She noticed the change in the house before anyone told her. Guards shifted positions. Voices lowered. The air tightened, subtle but unmistakable. She was in the sitting room when he entered, expression unreadable, jacket already on. You're not going outside, he said. That wasn't a request. Why? She asked, standing. Because someone from your former life is testing the edges of mine. Her stomach dropped. My family? Yes. The word landed harder than she expected. They didn't come for you, he continued. They came to see who you're with. Anger flared, sharp and sudden. Of course they did. He studied her face, gauging the damage. They won't get what they want. She folded her arms. And what is that? Access. She let out a breath. What are you going to do? Nothing, he said, unless they force me to. That should have reassured her. Instead, it frightened her more. Men like him didn't threaten. Lightly, they erased problems. They don't matter anymore, she said, trying to convince herself as much as him. They mattered enough to leave a mark, he replied. I don't ignore wounds. She followed him through the house despite his earlier order, stopping at a window that overlooked the gate. From a distance, she saw familiar shapes, her mother's posture, her brother's restless movements. They looked smaller from here. They're asking questions, he said, telling stories. What kind of stories? He turned to her. That you're unstable, that you left on your own, that you owe them. Her hands curled into fists. They're lying. I know. The simplicity of that nearly undid her. I can talk to them, she said suddenly. Clear it up. No. The word was sharp now, final. They abandoned me, she pressed. They don't get to rewrite it. They also don't get to touch you, he said. Not again. She turned on him. You can't lock me away every time my past shows up. I'm not locking you away, he said evenly. "I'm building a wall." "A wall I didn't ask for. You needed it anyway." Silence fell, heavy with unspoken truths. After a moment, he spoke again, voice lower. "I gave orders this morning. Your name won't be discussed outside this house. Anyone who tries to use it will regret it." "What did you do?" she asked. "I reminded people where boundaries are." She didn't ask how. She didn't want to know. By evening, the visitors were gone. No confrontation, no closure. Just absence. Again. Only this time, it felt different. "They left," she said quietly. "Yes. Will they come back?" "They won't try that again." The certainty in his tone sent a chill through her. Later, as night settled, she found him on the terrace, city lights stretching beyond the walls. He stood with his hands on the railing, shoulders tense. "You didn't have to protect me," she said. He didn't look at her. "I don't protect out of obligation." "Then why?" He turned slowly. "Because once someone is under my roof, they're mine to keep safe." The possessiveness was there now, no longer hidden. But it wasn't cruel. It was fierce, absolute. She searched his face. "And what if I don't want to be anyone's responsibility?" His gaze softened just enough to be dangerous. "Then stop being someone worth protecting." She swallowed. He had seen her strength, her breaking points. And still, he stood between her and the world. That night, she realized something unsettling. This place wasn't just shelter anymore. It was a line drawn in the sand. And on the other side of it, he was standing with her. The days that followed settled into a rhythm she hadn't known she was craving. Mornings were quiet. No raised voices. No tension waiting to explode. Just soft light filtering through tall windows and the distant sound of the house waking up. Someone always left tea outside her door without knocking. Someone always made sure the curtains were open just enough to let the day in. She noticed he never appeared by accident. When he was present, it was intentional. When he wasn't, she could feel that too, like the house itself adjusted around his absence. She began to move more freely, testing the edges of the safety he'd built. The courtyard became familiar. The paths, the hidden cameras she stopped trying to count. She read in the afternoons, curled into chairs that looked untouched before she arrived. It felt like borrowing a life that had been waiting. One evening she laughed. The sound surprised her so much she covered her mouth as if it were a mistake. It had come out naturally in response to something small. One of the guards telling a dry, unexpected joke while walking past. The moment hung in the air, fragile. He heard it. She knew he did before she saw him. He appeared at the doorway, eyes narrowing slightly. Not in anger, but focus. As if he were memorizing the sound. "You laughed," he said. She dropped her hand. "Is that against the rules?" "No," he replied. "It's rare." The word carried weight. Later that night, the first nightmare came. She woke gasping, sheets tangled around her legs, heart racing as memories blurred into fear. Her family's voices echoed in her head, layered with the slam of that door. She sat up, disoriented, tears threatening despite her effort to stay silent. The knock came seconds later. Soft, controlled. "I heard you," he said through the door. She hesitated, then opened it just enough to see him standing there, fully dressed, eyes sharp, despite the late hour. "I'm fine," she lied. He didn't challenge it. He simply sat in the chair across from her door, back straight, attention, focused outward. "You don't have to stay," she whispered. "I know." "Then why are you?" "Because fear doesn't ask permission," he said. "And neither do nightmares." She lay back down, the door still open, the light from the hallway cutting a thin line across the floor. For the first time in years, she fell asleep knowing someone was awake so she didn't have to be. In the morning, he acted as if nothing had happened. No mention, no questions. Just breakfast waiting, the house running smoothly. It wasn't indifference. It was respect. That afternoon, she found him in the gym, a private space filled with quiet power. He moved, with discipline, every motion controlled, purposeful. She watched without realizing how long she'd been standing there. You're staring? He said without turning. Am I not allowed? A pause. You're allowed. She crossed her arms. You protect everyone like this? No. Then why me? He stopped, finally facing her. There was something dangerous in his honesty now. Because you don't ask to be saved, he said. You endure. That kind of strength doesn't survive. Abandonment without help. Her throat tightened. She took a step closer. And what happens when I stop needing protection? His gaze held hers, unflinching. Then you'll choose to stay, he said. Or you'll leave stronger than when you arrived. Either way, I don't lose. She should have argued. Instead, she realized the truth. This wasn't a cage. It was a place where she was allowed to heal. And the man who owned it was watching carefully, not to control her freedom, but to make sure no one ever took it again. The first threat didn't come with noise or blood. It arrived as a feeling. She noticed it in the way the house tightened around her. Guards doubling silently, doors locking faster, voices dropping to murmurs when she entered a room. Even the air felt heavier, like something unseen had crossed an invisible boundary. She found him in the study, standing over a map spread across the desk. His jaw was set, eyes cold with focus. Whatever calm he usually carried had sharpened into something lethal. What's happening? She asked. He didn't look up. Someone is curious. About you? A pause. About you. Her stomach dropped. I didn't tell anyone where I was. I know. She stepped closer. Then how? He finally met her gaze. In my world, curiosity is a warning. And someone has been asking the wrong questions. Fear crept in. Not of him, but of what followed him. Am I the reason this is happening? Yes, he said simply. The honesty stunned her. Then I should leave. No, the word cracked through the room like a gunshot. You don't get to decide that alone, he continued, voice controlled but edged with steel. You are not a liability. Then what am I? His eyes darkened. You are leverage they don't get to touch. That night, the house locked down completely. She was moved to a different room without explanation. Deeper inside the estate, farther from exits. She didn't fight it. Not when she saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands flexed as if already anticipating violence. Hours passed, silence stretched thin. Then came the sound, a distant thud. Not loud, not dramatic, but deliberate. She stood frozen in the hallway, heart pounding, when he appeared from the shadows. Go back to your room, he said. What was that? Nothing you need to worry about. I'm already worried. His jaw tightened. That's why you're staying inside. Another sound, closer this time, a voice, raised, angry. Her breath caught. They're here. Yes, because of me. Because they made a mistake, he corrected. She reached for his arm before she could stop herself. Please don't do something you can't. Take back. He looked down at her hand, then at her face. For a split second, the armor cracked. Everything I do, I can take back, he said softly. Except losing you. Those words stayed with her as he walked away. She waited. Every second stretched. Her mind filled the silence with images she didn't want to see. When he returned, his sleeves were rolled down. His expression calm again. Too calm. It's over, he said. She searched him for blood, found none. What did you do? I ended the question. Later, she learned pieces of the truth from the quiet way the house exhaled, from the respect in the guards' eyes when they looked at her now. Someone had crossed a line. Someone would not do it again. She found him on the terrace just before dawn. The city lights flickered below, unaware of how close violence had come. You were shaking, she said quietly. He didn't deny it. Not from fear. Then what? He turned to her. From the thought that you could have been hurt before I stopped it. The admission landed heavy. You're not responsible for me, she said. I know, he replied. That doesn't change anything. She stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of him. You scare me, she admitted. His voice was low. Good. It means you understand the danger. And you still want me here? His gaze softened, just slightly. More than ever. In that moment, she understood something crucial. This wasn't protection out of duty. It was protection born of fear, of loss. And once a man like him feared losing someone, there was no safe distance left between them. The danger passed, but it left a residue. Not in the house. Everything there returned to its quiet efficiency, but inside her. She noticed it in the way she startled at sudden sounds, in how her thoughts circled back to the same question she hadn't asked out loud. What had he really done for her? She avoided him for most of the morning, keeping to the courtyard where sunlight felt safer than walls. The calm should have comforted her. Instead, it pressed on her chest, demanding honesty she wasn't sure she was ready to give. He found her anyway. "You're pulling away," he said, stopping a few steps from the bench where she sat. She didn't look up. "I'm thinking." "Thinking leads to leaving," he replied. "That's not fair. Neither is pretending you don't have questions." She exhaled and finally met his gaze. "I'm afraid of what loving your protection might cost me." The word loving hung between them, unintentional but undeniable. He didn't step closer. He didn't soften his tone. "Then ask what you need to ask." She hesitated, then spoke. "If I hadn't been here, if I hadn't mattered to you, would you have been that violent?" "Yes," he said immediately. The bluntness stunned her. "Then what's the difference?" she whispered. He tilted his head slightly. "When it's personal, I'm faster, and I don't make mistakes." A chill ran through her. She stood abruptly. "That's exactly what scares me." "And yet," he said quietly, "you haven't left." Her resolve cracked. The words she had buried for years rose up, heavy and sharp. "Because no one ever stayed," she said, voice trembling despite her effort. "Not when it mattered, not when I needed it. I learned early that love was conditional, that I was tolerated until I became inconvenient." He listened, didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it. "They didn't hit me," she continued. "They didn't scream. They just erased me, like I was something that could be set aside without consequence." Her throat tightened. She looked away, ashamed of the tears. "They taught me to expect abandonment," she finished. "So when you stand between me and danger, I don't know if it's real or just temporary." Silence stretched. Then he spoke, voice low and steady. "Look at me." She did. "I don't do temporary," he said. "If I choose something, it's mine until I decide otherwise, and I don't decide lightly." "That's not comforting," she said softly. "That sounds like ownership." "It is," he admitted, "of responsibility, of consequence." She swallowed. "And what if I fail you?" His brow furrowed. "You don't fail me by being human." The simplicity of that answer broke something open. She sank back onto the bench, covering her face. He moved then, closing the distance, but stopped short of touching her. "You were never disposable," he said. "They treated you like that because it was easier than admitting they needed you." She laughed weakly. "You don't even know them." "I know patterns," he replied, "and I know loss." That caught her attention. "You do?" His jaw tightened. "Everyone I loved either left or was taken from me. That's why I don't hesitate." Now, the confession felt costly. "So this is fear for you too," she said. "Yes." She lowered her hands, eyes red. "I don't want to be the reason you burn everything." "You aren't," he said. "You're the reason I choose what to protect." They stood in silence, something fragile and dangerous settling between them. That night she slept without nightmares. Not because the world felt safe, but because she had finally spoken the truth, and because someone had listened and stayed. The shift happened quietly, the way all irreversible things did. No announcement, no confrontation, just a subtle tightening of the space between them, like an invisible line had been crossed and neither of them could step back over it. She noticed it in the small things first, the way doors opened before she reached them, the way his schedule adjusted without discussion so he was always nearby, the way conversations in the house paused when she entered, not out of suspicion anymore but acknowledgement. She was no longer just a guest. She was a constant. He didn't say it outright. Men like him rarely did. Instead, he acted. One afternoon, she overheard him speaking on the phone in his study. She hadn't meant to. Listen, but her name carried through the half-open door. No, he said calmly. She doesn't attend those events. A pause. Because she's not available to be evaluated. Another pause. Longer this time. Yes, he continued. That includes you. The call ended. She stood frozen until he noticed her. You decide where I go now? She asked, keeping her tone even. He didn't bristle. I decide who gets access to you. That's not the same thing. It is in my world. She stepped fully into the room. And in mine? His eyes held hers. In yours, you decide whether you stay. She crossed her arms. You're drawing lines around me. Yes, without asking. I'm not asking, he said evenly. I'm informing. The possessiveness was unmistakable now. No longer softened by distance or politeness, and yet it wasn't cruel. It was deliberate. Protective to the point of exclusion. I won't be shared, he continued. Not with people who see you as leverage. Not with a past that tried to erase you. She felt the weight of his words. And what about me? Do I get a say? He stepped closer, not crowding her, but close enough that she could feel the gravity of him. You already did, he said, when you stayed. Her pulse quickened. That sounds like a claim. It is. The honesty sent a shiver through her. I won't be hidden, she said. You won't be, he replied. You'll be protected. There's a difference. He studied her for a long moment. Then define it. She hesitated. Protection doesn't erase choice. It doesn't make decisions for me. He nodded once. Then choose. The silence stretched. She realized what he was offering wasn't freedom from him, but freedom within his world. I choose to stay, she said finally, but not as something owned. His gaze darkened. You don't belong to me because I say so, he said. You belong here, because I will not let you be taken from it. Later that night, she learned how far that claim extended. A message arrived, from someone she recognized. An acquaintance from her old life. Polite, curious, asking where she'd gone. Before she could respond, her phone went dark. He appeared moments later. I blocked the number, he said. You went through my phone. Yes. Anger flared. You crossed a line. I erased a threat. They were just asking. They were fishing, he interrupted, and I won't allow it. She stared at him, chest tight. You don't trust me. I trust you completely, he said. I don't trust the world with you. The words landed heavier than any apology could have. She looked away, fighting the pull of his certainty. I won't apologize, he added, and I won't do it differently. She searched his face, waiting for doubt. There was none. That night, as she lay awake, she understood the truth. This was no longer about safety. It was about exclusivity, and by staying, by allowing him to draw those lines, she had accepted something powerful and dangerous. She wasn't just under his protection anymore. She was under his claim. The past didn't knock this time. It walked straight through the gate with confidence it hadn't earned. She knew the moment she saw their car. Familiar shape. Familiar hesitation as it slowed before her. The estate, as if even they could feel they didn't belong here. Her chest tightened. Not with longing, but with a weary recognition. They're here, she said quietly. He didn't ask how she knew. He was already moving. They asked for you by name, he said, politely. That almost made her laugh. Of course they did. They're waiting in the outer room, he continued. They won't be allowed past it. She took a steady breath. I want to see them. His head turned sharply. No! I didn't ask, she said, meeting his gaze. I'm telling you. The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. This was the first time she had pushed him, directly. You don't owe them anything, he said. I know, but I owe myself closure. He studied her for a long moment, jaw tight. Finally, he nodded once. I'll be present. That's not negotiable? No. The room they used was large and impersonal. A table. Chairs placed with careful distance. Her family sat together, expressions carefully arranged. Her mother stood first, eyes bright with practiced concern. There you are, she said. We've been so worried. The lie didn't sting the way it once would have. It felt dull, predictable. "You didn't look worried when you shut the door," she replied. Her brother shifted uncomfortably. "We didn't have a choice." She glanced at him. "You always had one." Her father cleared his throat. "We just want to know you're safe." She gestured subtly toward him, the man standing behind her, presence undeniable. "I am." Her mother's gaze flicked to him, measuring. "We didn't realize she was involved with someone so influential." He stepped forward slightly. "She isn't involved," he said calmly. "She's under my protection." The words changed the room. "That's generous," her father said carefully. "We were hoping she might come home. Things have settled." She felt the old pull for just a second. Habit, not desire. "There is no home to go back to," she said. Her mother's smile faltered. "We're still family." "No," she replied quietly. "You're people I used to belong to." Her brother looked at her then. Really looked. "You're different." "Yes. We can help you," her mother pressed. "You don't need this." She turned to the man beside her. "May I?" He inclined his head. "I don't need saving," she said to them. "I needed respect, and when I didn't get it, I left." "You didn't leave," her father snapped. "You were told to go." She nodded. "Exactly." Silence fell. Her mother recovered quickly. "We made a mistake. Families forgive." "Forgiveness requires regret," she said, "not convenience." Her father's eyes hardened. "You think you're better than us now?" "No," she said honestly. "I think I'm finally enough without you." That was the moment they realized they'd lost her. They left soon after. No shouting, no reconciliation, just quiet defeat. When the doors closed, her legs shook. He steadied her, not touching, just close enough. "You were strong," he said. She exhaled shakily. "I thought it would hurt more." "It did," he replied. "Just not the way it used to." Later, as they stood alone, he spoke again. "You chose yourself," he said. "That matters." She met his gaze. "I chose to stop chasing people who never wanted me." His voice dropped. "Then you chose wisely." In that moment, the past finally lost its hold, and something else took its place. Not blood, not obligation. Choice. The morning after her family's visit, the house felt different. Not because anything had changed. The walls still stood. The guards still moved like shadows. The sunlight still poured through the tall windows, but because she had changed. She sat in the courtyard, sipping tea that was too strong and too hot, as though the heat alone could remind her she was still alive. He joined her quietly, placing a chair across from hers without a word. There was no judgment in his gaze, only attention. Sharp, deliberate, unwavering. "You didn't answer them," he said. "I did," she replied softly. "Just not in words they could hear." He tilted his head. "And?" "I chose myself," she said, watching her reflection ripple in the tea. "I realized I don't need their approval. I don't need their forgiveness. I just need me." He nodded once. "Smart choice." She looked up at him. "Do you think I made the wrong one?" "I think," he said carefully, "that it was the only one you could make without losing yourself." Again, the truth of that settled over her like sunlight breaking through a storm. For years, she had been running from abandonment, from expectation, from people who claimed to love her yet discarded her at will. And now, for the first time, she wasn't running. She was standing. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, voice low, "if I'll leave? If I'll take this safety and walk away? Like I always do?" He leaned back in his chair, gaze sharp but steady. "I've thought about it, and I've decided to accept that fear. But you won't leave. Not because I say so. Not because I insist. You won't. Leave because you finally understand what it means to be protected, not owned. Protected." The weight of his words hit her. Not everyone who offered safety had pure intentions. She had seen that too many times. But him? He was different. Every action he took was precise, every word deliberate. And beneath the sharp edges, beneath the power he wielded like a weapon, there was an acknowledgement. She was her own person. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked, needing to test him. "Bringing me here?" "No," he said immediately. "I don't bring things into my world that I would regret. And you were worth every risk." Her throat tightened. "I never asked for this life," she whispered. "I never asked for anyone to fight my battles for me." He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. "You never asked because no one ever offered it correctly. I offer it now. On my terms, yes, but terms you understand and respect. You're not a pawn, you're the person I protect." She felt the power of that statement, the depth, the weight. She could have laughed at the possessiveness, feared it, hated it. Instead, she felt something she hadn't in years. Relief. Not from them. Not from the past. Not from fear. But relief from having a place where she didn't have to question her value. She exhaled slowly, watching him watch her, every subtle gesture speaking volumes. "Then I choose to stay," she said finally. "Not because I owe anyone. Not because I need to be saved. But because I want to." His eyes softened, but not enough to diminish the edge he carried. "Good. Stay, and understand. Staying doesn't make you mine. It just means you're no longer alone. And I won't let you be again." For the first time, she didn't flinch at that possessive tone. It was a promise, not a command. The house, the city, the world outside, all could wait. She had made her choice. And for the first time in her life, that choice felt entirely, completely, irrevocably hers. The calm didn't last. She sensed it before anyone said a word, before the guard shifted, before the house tightened its grip again. Calm, she had learned, was not peace in his world. It was the space between moves. He returned late that night, jacket gone, sleeves rolled up, eyes sharper than she'd ever seen them. Not angry, focused. That frightened her more. "You're bleeding," she said, standing as soon as he stepped inside. "It's not mine," he replied calmly. Her stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Someone tested the line I drew," she swallowed. "About me?" "Yes." The honesty was immediate. No softening this time. She followed him into the study, heart pounding. Maps were spread across the desk again. Names she didn't recognize. Locations circled in red. A war board, even if no one dared call it that. "I thought it was over," she said. "It will be," he replied. "After tonight." Fear crawled up her spine. "You're going to fight." "I already am." She stepped closer. "Then I'm not hiding." "You're hurt." He dismissed it. "I've had worse." She reached for his hand before thinking. This time he didn't pull away. "They threatened you," she said. "Yes." "What did you do?" "I reminded them who I am." Her grip tightened. "And what am I to them?" His eyes darkened. "Untouchable." The word sent a shiver through her. She stepped closer, voice low. "You could lose everything doing this." He didn't hesitate. "I won't lose you." That certainty frightened her and steadied her all at once. "You can't fight every war alone," she said. He looked at her, really looked at her. "I'm not alone anymore." The admission hung between them, raw and unguarded. She rested her forehead briefly against his chest, just for a second. He allowed it. The world outside could burn. This moment was solid. That night, she understood something crucial. This wasn't just about protection or power anymore. It was about loyalty. And in choosing her, he had declared war on anyone who thought she was still expendable. The storm came without warning. Not the literal kind, though rain pelted the estate windows and thunder rolled across the city. The storm was in the form of unexpected news, whispered threats, and a reminder that the past she thought she had left behind was still very much alive. She had been walking through the courtyard, the scent of wet earth and damp stone heavy in the air when she sensed it. The way the guard's steps became sharper, more purposeful. The sudden, subtle change in the air. He appeared at the terrace door, coat in hand, hair damp from the rain. His eyes were fixed on her with a focus that made her heart tighten. "They're escalating," he said quietly. She stopped. "Who?" "Those who think they can touch you." She shook her head. "I thought we ended this." He exhaled slowly. "We ended the first wave. This is the next." She felt a mix of fear and disbelief. She had come here seeking safety, thinking she could finally breathe. Instead, the world had found another way to remind her she was fragile, a target. "I can't just hide forever," she said, frustration lacing her voice. "You don't have to," he replied, "but tonight you will." The house transformed into something unrecognizable. Doors locked automatically. Guards doubled their patrols. Security cameras angled differently, catching every corner. The lights dimmed, making shadows sharper, and the estate feel like a fortress. "I hate this," she admitted, voice low. "I feel like I'm trapped." "You're not trapped," he said, stepping closer. "You're protected." She looked up at him, noticing the tension in his jaw and the tight set of his shoulders. "It doesn't feel like protection. It feels like a cage." He studied her face carefully. "Do you trust me?" She hesitated. I don't know anymore." His eyes softened just slightly, but the edge remained. "You will. By morning you'll understand why this is necessary." Hours passed. She stayed in the secured room, curtains drawn, heart pounding with every sound that wasn't familiar. Footsteps. Voices outside. The faint click of a gate. Each one made her flinch. Then he came. Not in anger, not in panic, but with a calm that made her shiver. His coat dripped, but he ignored it, and his eyes met hers immediately. "They've tried," he said. "They've tested everything I built around you, and they failed." She wanted to ask how. But the answer wasn't in words. It was in the quiet confidence radiating from him, the subtle shifts in the guard's formation, the absence of threats. "You did this for me?" she whispered. "I did this because I promised you safety," he said, "and I never break a promise." She looked down, suddenly overwhelmed. I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," he replied. "Just stay." The weight of it pressed down on her, not suffocating, but grounding. She realized she had never experienced someone who was willing to go to such lengths for her. Not for love, not for obligation, just because they had decided she mattered. "I'm not used to this," she admitted, voice trembling. "Then get used to it," he said, voice firm but not unkind. "This is your life now, and I won't let anyone take it from you." She exhaled slowly, the tension in her chest easing, but the reality remained. This wasn't just protection, it was a declaration. A possessive, unwavering, dangerous declaration. And in that moment, she realized the depth of what he felt for her, and the cost of ever leaving his world. She didn't need to speak. He already understood. Tonight she wasn't just safe. She was claimed, and that claim would not be broken. The declaration changed everything. Not in ways the world could see, but in the way the house breathed, in how people moved around her now, careful and precise, as if her presence carried weight they could no longer ignore. The claim he had made wasn't spoken aloud, yet it echoed everywhere. She felt it most when she looked at him. There was no retreat left in his eyes, no measured distance. Whatever line he had once, guarded so carefully, was gone. And with it came a cost. Neither of them could pretend, didn't exist. "You're different," she said one evening, watching him study reports spread across the table. "So are you," he replied without looking up. "That's not what I mean." She hesitated. "You're heavier." His mouth curved slightly. "That's the price of certainty." She sat across from him. "And what does certainty cost you?" That got his attention. He set the papers aside and leaned back, studying her as if deciding how much truth to give. "Power," he said finally, "demands distance. Fear works best when nothing is personal." "And now?" she asked quietly. "And now," he said, "everything is personal." The honesty settled between them like a truth neither could undo. "You're exposed," she said, "because of me." "Yes." Do you regret that? No. The answer came too fast. She stood and moved closer. You could lose allies, influence, control. I already have, he said calmly. Some don't like that I drew a line they can't cross. Her chest tightened. Then I'm a weakness. No, he corrected. You're a responsibility. The distinction mattered. That night, she overheard raised voices behind closed doors, trusted men questioning. Decisions, warning him about appearances, about vulnerability. She didn't hear his responses. She didn't need to. In the morning, one of those men was gone. No explanation given, no announcement made. She found him later on the terrace, city stretching endlessly beyond the walls. You removed him, she said. Yes. Because of me? Because he forgot who decides. Her throat tightened. People will fear me. They already do, he said. Not because you're dangerous, but because I am. She looked at him. That's not protection. That's isolation. He turned to her then, gaze intense. Protection always isolates. The question is whether you're alone inside it. She didn't answer immediately. Later that day, she was invited, carefully, deliberately, to sit in on a meeting. Not as decoration, not hidden, present. Men stopped speaking when she entered. This is unnecessary, one of them said. He didn't raise his voice. It's inevitable. She felt the weight of their eyes on her, measuring, calculating. She stays, he continued. And anything that threatens her threatens me. Silence followed. Afterward, she confronted him. You didn't need to do that. Yes, he said, I did. You're forcing them to accept me. I'm forcing them to understand consequence. Her voice softened. And what about me? What if I don't want to be the center of your world? He stepped closer. Then don't be, he said quietly. Be beside it. But understand this. Any world I rule, I protect what stands next to me. The weight of that promise pressed down on her. That night, she lay awake, listening to the quiet, realizing the truth she couldn't ignore anymore. Loving a man like him didn't come without cost. It cost peace. It cost anonymity. It cost safety of a different kind. But it also gave something she had never had before. Someone who chose her, openly, decisively, even when it weakened him. And that kind of love was not gentle. It was powerful, and it demanded everything in return. The tension in the house was different that morning. Not because anything had changed in the walls, the doors, or the guards, but because she felt it, a presence behind every shadow, a sharpness in every step, a constant reminder that nothing here was without intention. He entered the room quietly, as always. But this time she noticed the way his gaze lingered on her longer than necessary. It wasn't casual, it wasn't polite. It was measured, dangerous, and deeply personal. You're restless, he said. I am, she admitted. I can't sit still knowing the world outside wants to test us. You shouldn't, he said, walking closer. Restlessness is survival instinct. But in my house, it's also an invitation. She raised an eyebrow. Invitation for what? For focus, he replied. For control. For understanding that anything you let slip outside these walls comes with consequences. The weight of his words pressed on her chest. She had never known someone who claimed her, with such force without diminishing her freedom. He wasn't demanding obedience. He was demanding respect. Respect for her own life, for the line he had drawn, and for the claim he refused to relinquish. She stepped closer, testing the boundaries he had so carefully built. And if I don't want to follow those rules? He tilted his head, lips barely curved in a smirk. Then you leave, or you learn what happens. When someone like me decides to protect what is his, she swallowed, the intensity in his gaze unrelenting. He wasn't threatening. He was promising. A promise that carried the weight of danger, power, and unyielding possession. Later, as the day passed, she found herself wandering the courtyard, mind racing with the events of the past weeks. Threats, warnings, lessons she had learned too quickly. Every step she took, every turn she made, reminded her that she was no longer the girl abandoned on the porch. A sudden presence behind her made her spin. He was there, silent as always, but with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "You think too much," he said. "About danger, about people, about me." "I have to," she whispered. "I can't help it." "You don't," he corrected. "You think because you fear the world will take you again. But it won't. Not here, not with me." She stared at him, searching for softness. She found none, only clarity, only certainty. And yet, that clarity was the first reassurance she had felt in years. "I don't want to be fragile," she admitted. "I don't want to rely on someone else to keep me safe." "You won't," he said firmly. "You'll rely on yourself, but you'll also understand the value of someone who refuses to let harm touch you." The sun dipped low, painting the estate in gold and shadow. She felt the shift inside her, the quiet acceptance of the claim he had placed on her, not through possession, but through protection, through the unspoken understanding that she mattered beyond measure. That night he approached her in the library. She was reading, but her thoughts were scattered. "You're learning," he said, sitting opposite her. "About the world, about danger, about yourself." "I am," she said, "but it's exhausting." He leaned forward slightly. "Strength always is. But exhaustion is temporary. Mastery lasts." She looked at him, heart pounding. "And what if I fail?" "You won't," he said simply, "because failure isn't an option for something I claim." Her breath caught. The possessiveness was undeniable now, and yet it wasn't suffocating. It was grounding. Dangerous, yes, but stabilizing in a way she had never known. That night, as she lay awake, she understood the truth fully. He hadn't rescued her just from the world outside. He had rescued her from the version of herself that believed she was disposable. And by claiming her, softly, possessively, entirely, he had created a new reality. One where she was no longer alone. One where she was not just safe, but chosen. And the cost of leaving that reality would be higher than anything she had ever imagined. The night was quiet, heavier than usual, carrying a stillness that pressed against her skin like a warning. She walked through the halls of the estate, heels clicking softly, aware of every shadow, every flicker of light. She had grown accustomed to the rhythms of this house, to the invisible lines that dictated where she could move, what she could see, and who could approach her. And yet, tonight felt different. He found her in the private courtyard, the city lights stretching endlessly beyond the high walls. He didn't speak at first. He simply observed her, the weight of his gaze folding around her like the night itself. "You've changed," he said finally. His voice was low, steady, and dangerous. "I have," she replied, keeping her tone even despite the flutter in her chest. "Because I had to." He stepped closer, close enough that the air between them throbbed with tension. "No, you've changed because you allowed yourself to be seen, fully, without fear, without pretending you don't matter." She swallowed, her pulse quickening. "And if I fail, if I falter?" His eyes softened just enough to be terrifying. "Then I'll remind you. Not because I control you, but because I refuse to let harm touch you. Not again. Not ever." The possessiveness in his words was undeniable. She could feel it seeping into every corner of the courtyard, wrapping around her like a shield and a chain at once. It wasn't ownership. It was protection, fierce, unyielding, absolute. "I never thought anyone would care this much," she whispered. "I do," he said simply. "And caring like this, it's not safe. It's not convenient. It's unreal." For the first time, she saw the edges of him, not the controlled, dangerous exterior, but the man beneath it. A man who feared losing someone once he claimed them. A man who refused to let the past repeat itself. "I'm tired of being afraid," she admitted, voice trembling. "Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of feeling like I'm disposable." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Not too close. Not overstepping, but intimate enough that she felt his warmth. "Then you won't be," he said. "Not anymore. You are mine to protect, yes, but not to own. You are yours first, and I respect that." The weight of his words pressed into her chest, settling deep. For years, she had believed she didn't deserve safety, love, or loyalty. Now, she realized she had been wrong. She deserved it and more. "You make it sound simple," she said, a small laugh escaping her lips. "It's never simple," he replied, "but it's necessary." The night stretched around them, quiet but alive. Every sound of the estate, every whisper of wind through the trees, every faint echo of the city beyond, reminded her that she had survived, that she had chosen, that she had been claimed in the only way that mattered, fully, irrevocably, and without compromise. "I'm not leaving," she said finally, her voice firm. "Not because you won't let me, but because I don't want to." His lips curved in a rare, subtle smile. "Good," he said, "because once you choose to stay, there is no turning back. And you wouldn't want there to be." She met his gaze, feeling the pull of everything he represented: danger, power, loyalty, and an unshakable devotion that had never existed for her before. "You've given me more than protection," she admitted. "You've given me a place to belong. And I will protect it," he said quietly, "as long as you remain in it." She let herself lean slightly toward him, feeling the steadiness, the certainty. The man beside her was no longer just a protector, no longer just dangerous. He was the one who had seen her, fully, who had refused to let the world erase her, and who had made her feel untouchable in a way she had never imagined. Tonight the past had lost its grip. Tonight she was not abandoned. Tonight she was his, and for the first time wholly her own. And in that union of choice and claim, fear and safety, loss and devotion, she understood the ultimate truth. Some bonds are forged not in convenience, not in weakness, but in absolute, unyielding loyalty. And those bonds are eternal. The city slept unaware below, but she felt awake for the first time in years. She belonged. He belonged. And nothing could take that away. Her story of betrayal, survival, and the man who claimed her heart isn't over yet. If you felt her fear, her strength, and the intensity of his love, don't miss the next chapter. Subscribe now and stay with us, because every shadow hides a secret, and every heart has